you now have two tables that you can use, and we've got our transaction numbers. And if you notice here, that's repeated. We don't really need to repeat that because we've got it once here. So let's take that out of here. We could have solved that problem by not copying it in the first place. We've also got our cumulative interest for both the total payments and the planned payments, and our ending balance for the total payments and the planned payments. Let's just make sure that it's clear that we know which table is each. So we'll put total payments there, and we'll put planned payments here. The difficulty is going to be that when we produce a graph, there's going to be no difference between the two ending balances and the two cumulative interests in terms of the legend. We need to know what they're going to mean. So before we produce a graph, we just need to put some information here. This is going to be our total cumulative interest, or our bonus cumulative interest. This is going to be our bonus ending balance. This is going to be our planned cumulative interest, and this is going to be our planned ending balance. So now we need to identify the data that's going to be included in our graph. First of all, we've got our transaction number, which is going to go on the x-axis. Now I'm going to highlight this exactly. We've got to be very precise about the data that we highlight. I'm now going to use the control key to highlight the bonus cumulative interest. There we go, and again I've got to be precise about it. If we don't get these right, so here's a bonus ending balance, which is what we were asked to put on the graph. If I'd like to include just one extra cell, it won't work. And we've got our planned cumulative interest. You're bound to make mistakes when you're doing this. I've made a few mistakes. This is about my third attempt at doing this video tutorial. So there we go. We've now got, I'm just going to go down just to make sure, yeah, I've got all of that. This is the data we want in our graph. So if I go to the insert ribbon, and we're going to choose a line graph, which is this option here, and we're going to choose the first line graph. That creates our graph for us. Brilliant, it's looking good already. Let's put it into a new sheet because we haven't got any space on here. If we right hand click somewhere on here, don't click on any of these parts because you won't get the right options. Look, it's a different menu. So if I right click somewhere in a blank area, I can move the chart. And I'll move this chart, we'll give it a worksheet, a sensible name, such as graph. And now we've got our whole graph within our own worksheet. So we need to refine our graph a bit now that we've got it. Let's give it a sensible title. So I'll just change the title here. And we're looking at comparing our lease payments that are made on time versus the late payments. Now we need to add some axis titles. As long as we've got our graph selected, we'll have this design and format chart tools. If I don't select it, you'll notice they disappear. So if I select it again, under design, you've got add chart element. So I'm going to add a primary horizontal axis, which is going to be the x-axis. This represents our transaction number. And then we need our y-axis. Click back on the graph again, add our chart element, and we'll add a vertical. Now this represents two different values, and you're asked to put cumulative interest, make sure it's only 1M, and the ending balance. Now I could put here brackets pounds to show the units. That would be completely acceptable. I'm just going to show you a different way of doing it. That is, if we click on the axis here, we'll get this pane appear on the right hand side. What I need to do is actually get into the numbers and go to our axis options. There we go. Make sure that it's on this part of it here, this graph part for the axis options. Number, and then here we change to currency. There we go. One final thing to do, if you have a look at your legend, you'll see it's got the planned balance, and it's got the planned cumulative interest, the bonus ending balance, the bonus cumulative interest, and we've also got this transaction number. We don't need that in the legend, so if we click on it, make sure it's only the transaction number that's selected and delete it.